Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Molly,
I'm Michael.
and today we're going to be going over all that went down this past week with new shows, or not new shows, but shows that are airing, new episodes coming out, and all the news stories as well. So let's get started with our dating dish, which this past weekend was a very exciting time for me seeing Nick and Natalie's wedding. Finally, they got married this past weekend, and their pictures looked incredible. I'm so happy for them. I've been following Nick for a while. I love his podcast. I was featured on it a couple years ago. But besides that, I just love them as a couple, and so I'm really happy to see them be happy and with their daughter also there as a present person at the wedding because they had her only 2 months ago, which is crazy that Natalie looks that good for having her daughter 2 months ago. So I'm just happy for them and all the pictures from Bachelor Nation. Everyone who went there to celebrate all looked great as well. So yeah, what are your thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, no, Natalie looked amazing for only being 2 months postpartum. That is incredible that she has bounced back so quickly. And yeah, super happy for them. Anytime you get Bachelor Nation all together for an event like that is fun to see all the pictures of everybody together. And they did it on a Georgia farm, which was beautiful. The pictures that we've seen so far look just gorgeous from that. So yeah, super happy for them, and I'm sure we will hear a lot more details on their podcast coming up in the coming weeks. So
Yes,
looking
I'm
forward to
definitely
that.
looking forward to that. And speaking of the podcast, a few episodes ago on Nick's podcast, he mentioned that Tyler wasn't sure if he was going to his wedding because Tyler Cameron was invited because Nick and Tyler and JoJo were all on Special Forces together and became really close. And Tyler had mentioned to Nick that he had some prior like speaking engagements or something to do with promoting his show. And now it looked like, well, based on social media, we saw that Tyler was at Stagecoach. So that's interesting. I'm curious to know if that was the press he needed for his show, that he went to Stagecoach instead of one of his friends' weddings. So, because Stagecoach can happen any year, and your friend's wedding is only going to happen once, because seems like now they're going to last. So, like for that, I'm surprised that that's what he chose to do, and I'm really curious how that's going to affect their friendship moving forward. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. So I didn't necessarily hear him talk about that, so I don't know how he worded it.
Mhm.
And but if he worded it as being press, that does seem to be not implying stagecoach. So that is interesting. I wonder if there's any sort of beef there between them now because of that, or whether that was a known reason for not being there that Nick was already aware of. So I don't know. But if it's not, I'm sure we will hear more about it.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to speculate about that because I feel like that's some drama that could be brewing, but we'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And also in Bachelor Nation news, we heard from Rachel Recchia, former Bachelorette, and also on the Bachelor in Paradise this last season, that there will be no Bachelor in Paradise this upcoming summer. And maybe not in the future. I don't know if that's clear or not from her statement, but overall, no summer Bachelor in Paradise this year. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, it's definitely seeming that way. It's not official. I just want to say that ABC has not announced that it's been canceled. But normally by now, we're almost in May. Bachelor in Paradise usually films around June. So we would be hearing a lot of rumors of who's going to be there. People would have already been contacted. I'm sure people would already be talking and, I can't say pre-gaming for Bachelor in Paradise, but like talking beforehand and figuring out, who's going to be there and who you're going to connect with, hopefully. And nobody, as far as Rachel knows, nobody's been contacted that she's aware of about going on Paradise this summer. So that would indicate that it's probably not happening. Also, when ABC announced renewals for the Bachelor franchise, We got Golden Bachelor, we got Bachelorette, we got all these news from different forms of Bachelor Nation, and Paradise was not on there. So all of that combined seems to indicate it's not going to be happening this summer. Now, whether it's going to be in the future or not, might just be a little pause. We don't know. I think a pause is good. This last season of Paradise was difficult to get through, to say the least, and none of the couples lasted more than one day after the finale aired. So it seems like we need some time maybe to, I don't know, restructure the format of the show, maybe get some new faces in there so that they don't have to pull so many people from one season, just the most recent season, because they already used up everyone else from the prior season the year before. So I think it's good to, get some more new faces that then in a couple years we can have a lot of newbies. I think that's why like season 7 of Paradise was so good, because it was kind of forced because of COVID to take a year off, and then it came back and there were 2 years worth of cast members to choose from. And we had a few years between Bachelor Pad and Bachelor in Paradise season 1 airing, and that let them have a few years. So I think it's good sometimes to take a little break. But what do you
Yeah,
think?
I agree. I like didn't even really watch Paradise last season because I tried to watch an episode and I was like, nope, I don't want to watch this season. And not, obviously, none of the couples were successful, so glad I didn't continue it. But I definitely think like we're definitely still, I feel like, in that getting a Bachelor overload phases that we need a break from the show sometimes. So I think it's smart for them to take a break on The Bachelor in Paradise this summer.
Yeah, I agree. But I do wonder, like, if they do decide to bring it back, when would it air? Because now that we have Golden Bachelor and Bachelorette, that's kind of taking over Paradise's time slot. And last summer they did them both at the same time, but I don't think that was a good idea. I think that was really overload. So I don't even know when, unless, Golden Bachelor gets canceled at some point. I don't know when they would even air it necessarily. I guess, like, maybe now, but then it can't be Paradise because summer hasn't happened yet. So, excuse me. I don't know. But yeah, we will see what happens in the future.
Yes, for sure. And then moving into some other unfortunate kind of news is from Harry Jowsey. He shared on his TikTok that he had skin cancer, which it's getting removed on his skin, but sharing like the PSA to wear sunscreen and make sure to go and get your skin checked up because he had a piece of skin that was skin cancer, which is not good. But it seems like he's recovering and or will be recovering soon and is healthy enough for him to survive this. So not so detrimental, but definitely scary.
Yeah, no, I think it's always important when public figures, are honest and open about things like this because it is a reminder for people to, check and get go to the doctor if you see anything, get checked out, like wear sunscreen, be preventative about this type of stuff. Like that's really important. And we've seen a couple of like Teddy Mellencamp and some other public reality stars have talked about this in the recent past as well. And I think it's always good to do that because they have such large fan bases that even if they just help one person to get checked out who wouldn't have otherwise, then they did the right thing. So
For
all the
sure.
best for Harry.
Yes. And then that's it for our dating dish. So let's go into Breaking Bright Bravo. If you want to take that over, Michael.
Yeah, so we have a few Bravo shows to talk about this week. Let's start out with The Valley. I know, Molly, you just watched this last week's episode, which had a crazy last 10 minutes. We'll kind of, I think, just fast forward to that part of the episode because the rest of it, not a whole lot happened before that necessarily. But these last 10 minutes, we had the dinner party where Jesse and Michelle and Kristen and Luke really got into it and started out at the dinner table, but then transitioned over to the hallway where Kristen was, it sounded like talking to a producer about wanting to leave, and then that she didn't want to reveal what could ruin Jesse and Michelle's relationship, and this a horrible secret about them, and then Jesse and Michelle just got pissed, and then we heard Kristen blurt it out that, well, at first it sounded like she got it wrong. That she said that Jesse said that he was going to leave Michelle in the next 2 months when Jax told us, and Jax, the reliable source, but it does seem like he was probably right here. That it was actually the other way around, that Michelle said she was going to leave Jesse within the next 2 months. And then we also heard that Michelle has had a boyfriend for the last year. So, Molly, what is your take on all this? Whose side were you on?
Well, yeah, that was a crazy end of the episode. They even had, like, you could see the cameras and the producers. Like, I kind of like that they broke the fourth wall there and seeing the behind the scenes side of it
Yeah.
because it was, like, they were in a small hallway area. Like, they couldn't just hide who was there. But I feel like Michelle and Jesse, like, they have obviously a lot of problems in their marriage right now because they're going through couples therapy and like a lot of their emotions are also heightened because like they're going through that change. And so I don't think like the way that they acted was right by any means, but also like it's not great when someone else is like airing your information of what's going on in your personal life in the sense of this is for the world now. Like it's on cameras, like we're
Yeah.
seeing this, like not just even if it's just with your friend group, like you might not want it being shared. Like with the world, you're definitely not going to necessarily want that being shared. So obviously, like they were really upset about it there too, which obviously brought out some of those strong emotions. But I don't know if I. It's like hard to choose a side here because I don't really agree with either one of these sides. And like I don't like Jesse at all though. So if anything, like I would go more with Kristen and Luke because like I like them more than I like Jesse. And Michelle's just like also just part of it now. I mean, I didn't know if she had a boyfriend. So that's another aspect that she was cheating or being not faithful with Jesse. So yeah, there's a lot of layers to this. So overall, just very messy and we know they're no longer together, so at least that's good that we know that. Like they've already
Right.
split up. Because if they were still together at this point, like that would be crazy. But yeah, so there's just a lot going out down, and Kristen needs to get her facts straight first, even though she wasn't totally off, but she needs to get her facts straight for them to like for it to be like a diss at them because that wasn't even what was true. But yeah, so it's I mean obviously also we know with the there's so many layers because of the Kristen and then Michelle part of it too with them like fighting it out like Kristen's like I'm trying to protect you and Michelle's like she's not protecting me like what is she saying. So yeah, those are my just random thoughts that I've had in the past hour after processing what just happened. um but what about you?
Yeah, no, I would say overall I'm definitely on Kristen and Luke's side here. I just personally always hate when, because it's not just Jesse and Michelle, it's also like, and I really like Janet, but I don't love how I feel like Michelle and Janet and Jesse, all of them are like kind of trying to ice Kristen out of the group, it seems like, and get her basically fired from the show by just not like refusing to film with her. And whenever like a group does that, I don't love it because it's never going to work, first of all. Like, you're just making that person more relevant by trying to ice them out, and you're going to make the audience go onto their side because like most of the audience likes an underdog and they like the person who's kind of being iced out unless it's like something really terrible that they've done. So I I do find myself I think on Kristen's side. I think that she was wrong to like kind of hold this information over Michelle's head without telling her what it was or telling anyone what it was. Like, I don't like that type of threat. Like, you better be on my side or else I'm gonna reveal this horrible thing I know about you that I'm not gonna that I'm gonna, because it makes it sound like it's something probably so much worse than it even is. Like when she said that what it was, that I was like, okay, like that's bad, but like I guess it could have been a lot worse. So I don't know. And obviously, she got the information wrong, which isn't great at first. So that's also another thing. But overall, yeah, I think Team Kristen.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely interested to see what's going to happen in this next week's episode because that ended on a big cliffhanger. Like, they didn't even address the boyfriend now. Like, that just was announced, and then they just go on and end the
Yeah.
episode. And I was like, oh, all right, now I have to
I
wait.
also couldn't tell though if they heard her say that, because I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone heard it. Because like, and they made it seem like they cut to Michelle, like where it seemed like she heard it, but because she didn't react yet, I'm like, oh, I don't know if that was just told to the producer who heard that and they picked it up on her mic, but then none of the other cast members actually heard her say it. I don't know.
Oh, wait, that's a good point. That's interesting. Well, we'll have to wait, I guess, to see, or we can
Yeah,
replay
no,
that.
we'll see next week. Because if they heard it, they're gonna react to it,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will catch up with that next week. But let's move on now to Summer House. So we had I would say another great episode of Summer House. I love this season. And we had the big feud of the episode was Danielle versus Gabby. So Danielle was trying to be Gabby's wing woman with Balloon Guy, Joe. I think was his name, right? Joe.
Yeah.
And Gabby did not seem to be super interested in, making a concerted effort to flirt with Balloon Guy, which for some reason seemed to make Danielle kind of pretty upset. And I think it seemed like Danielle wanted this sort of competition with Gabby for Balloon Guy, and Gabby just wasn't willing to participate in that, so Danielle went for him instead and really kind of laid into Gabby and made Gabby cry for what seemed like quite a while in the shower. So, whose side were you on there? What was your take on that?
Yeah, I'm definitely on Gabby's side there. I felt like Danielle overstepped in multiple ways. First off, like trying to be like, oh, like you should go for a balloon guy, even though she was still trying to go for him. And then Gabby felt pressured, and then she wasn't even trying to apologize after she saw that Gabby was crying for so long. And even like Paige was trying to tell Danielle like go and apologize to her, and she's like, for what? Like I was just trying to be a good friend to her. So then she didn't even want to talk to Amanda about it, which was like extra like okay, like she just is way too like stubborn about the situation here and just like thinks she's the best. But I don't know. I feel like at least the next day, like they did have a talk and like kind of aired things out a little bit. Like maybe being under the influence had a factor a bit somewhat too. Like maybe she was just more strongly like opinionated at that moment, like didn't necessarily know how her words were coming across. But I feel like I just feel bad for Gabby in the situation because she didn't deserve to go through what she had to go through.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially where Danielle went too far was when they said that Gabby's crying. She said, well, that's stupid that she's crying. And it's like, you don't get to choose what she is able to cry over, or be upset about, and not be upset about. Like, that really, and I know Danielle was probably drunk and not as eloquent in her word choices as normally she would have been, but still, like that's her supposed to be her close friend, and she's supposed to be trying to help her out, and it just didn't seem like she really cared at all about Gabby's feelings there. And I just think that Danielle is trying very hard to come across a certain way now after last season where she was kind of seen as this uh, ruining like Lindsay and Carl's engagement party and making it all about her, and she's really did not come across well to a lot of the audience last season. And I think that she's really trying, and she started with this with Winter House this past season too, where she's trying to be like this party girl and drunk all the time, and we need to always have fun, and it just doesn't seem organic the way that she's coming across now, I feel like. And she's really trying hard to change her image, and I think that part of that was, oh, I'm going to have this fun competition with Gabby over Balloon Guy. And I think she really wanted that to be the storyline, and Gabby just wasn't willing to participate there. And I think that's probably what made Danielle upset. That Gabby wasn't willing to play along with her forced storyline. So that's my guess here is what really upset Danielle about this, because it really didn't seem have anything to do with her otherwise. So that's really the only thing I can come up with. But yeah, no, I agree with you. Definitely Team Gabby on this all the way. And Team Paige and Amanda too. I think they seem to be really good friends here. And even Lindsay checked on Gabby. We'll give Lindsay that. But really, Paige and Amanda did a really good job of checking on Gabby and making sure that she wasn't alone in the shower, like nobody cared about her.
Yeah, definitely.
But let's move on now to our last Bravo show of the week, Vanderpump Rules. We saw the return of Jax Taylor to Vanderpump Rules. I guess he was also seen earlier in the season for the crossover with the Valley premiere, but the first time he was really interacting with most of the cast here. That wasn't just Tom and Tom. So, especially his big moment was with Katie. Now, Katie and Jax have a long history where Jax was always very close with Schwartz, and Jax and Katie, I feel like, never had like a huge. Well, I mean, yes, they had moments. Obviously, we saw some flashbacks to that, but they never had like a huge feud, mostly because Katie was with Schwartz at the time, and I think Jax wanted to kind of like, keep the peace, and Katie wanted to keep the peace with Schwartz's best friend. So they always kind of like just dealt with each other. But now that Schwartz and Katie are no longer together, Jax and Katie do not have to pretend to like each other anymore. So, what were your thoughts on their whole interaction?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I feel like because I'm newer into the space of watching Jax, like you've obviously had more experience of knowing what he's been like in other seasons when he was on Vanderpump before he got off of it, and now in the Valley. Like that's my first time actually watching him. It's in the Valley, so I'm getting a much like more recent sense of him. So seeing him now cross over into Vanderpump was like it was interesting because I see him now in two of the shows that I'm watching, and it was really interesting seeing him and the way he interacted with this cast, and it just seems like no one likes him. To be honest, like everyone already feels that way. I feel like about him generally, but on the Valley, like they're like nice to him because it's around Brittany. But when he wasn't with Brittany, like everyone just could like be as much as say anything they wanted to him. And I like that. It was fun to see Katie go at him. So obviously Team Katie here, but it was just like I honestly it was crazy because then like with Lisa also that conversation she was just like I don't like you, but so like they were like very much like giving it to him straight, and I like that part of it. It was like well like they just gave him the shit that he needed to hear.
Yeah. Well, Jax was always a terrible employee at SUR. I mean, you know. So that goes back a long time where Jax was fired from SUR many, many years ago. But also, Jax's last moment on Vanderpump Rules, besides the reunion, was basically telling Lisa that Vanderpump Rules is his show, not Lisa's. We saw that little flashback, but that was the last moment that we ever saw of Jax. That wasn't a reunion until now, coming back for the Valley. So that, I think, did not sit well with Lisa, and that has apparently stuck for these last few years. But yeah, no, definitely Team Katie here. I mean, Jax seems to be upset with the fact that Katie was talking about the stories of him cheating on Brittany, which, I mean, look, based on his history, isn't that crazy of a thought to have if you're seeing news stories about it that maybe it's true? So, and wasn't like Katie came up with these stories or was the one spreading the stories. Now, she brought it up on the show, I will say that. Like, she is bringing it to the forefront here, which, if I was Jax and it wasn't true, I would probably be upset about also, but, you know, he knows that Katie doesn't like him. He doesn't like Katie, so it's not like there's any real loyalty there. Katie and Brittany haven't really been on great terms since Jax and Brittany didn't go to Stassi's wedding, and there's this whole thing there. So they talk about that on the after show for those of you who have not watched that but have watched the episode. I do recommend going to watch the after show because you do get a lot of the backstory to all of that as to why Katie and Jax don't get along and everything that happened there. So I would recommend that. But later in the episode, we saw Sheena and Sandoval have a big moment as well, where Sandoval brought up Sheena's past as the other woman with Eddie Cibrian, and Sheena was telling Sandoval that the whole situation brought up a lot of her insecurities with Brock, even with like Brock and Lala potentially, and that, you know, this has really impacted her in a very negative way. So what were your thoughts on their fight at James's house?
Yeah, it was stemming from the fact that Sheena wrote the song about Sandoval, so like he
Yes.
was
Yeah.
upset about hearing that she was releasing this new song that was obviously hinted at him cheating on Ariana, and didn't like that that was still being discussed in that wide of like a we're gonna capitalize on this still. So yeah, obviously Team Sheena here, like what Sandoval said was uncalled for and just like so rude in that moment. Like obviously like don't bring up like something that happened like years ago. Like if like this is something that happened months ago versus years ago, like it's like a way different scenario there. Um and and Sheena was trying like we were seeing in other episodes with Sheena and Tom like talking like she was trying to be a friend to Tom, and then he goes and says this about her. So obviously now I feel like she just can't trust Tom anymore. I mean, she should have not trusted him at all, but now I feel like she extra won't trust him. And yeah, it was nice to see like Ariana go and hug Sheena and be like, he's just a terrible human, like don't worry about him. But obviously it's still gonna get to Sheena and she's gonna be upset about it. But it was just yeah, that was wild what he said about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the point that we've been making for a year now, is that Sandoval says, "Oh, don't, you know, you say don't bring up the past, but then you're going to bring up, you know, the Scandival is now the past." But the difference is, Sheena has shown a lot of growth. She was very young at the time. She was, you know, 20, 21 at the time, and she has not done anything like that. She doesn't defend the fact that, you know, that was right. She says she didn't know what the situation was, that he was together. She believed what he was telling her, and it was wrong, you know, that if she had known any of that she wouldn't have done it. And she has not done anything like that since then in the last 10, 12 years. Whereas Sandoval is still doing like the same. He is not learning, and he is still showing time and time again that he doesn't get it. Even in interviews after the season filmed, he is still making these terrible remarks about Ariana and trying to defend and justify why he had this affair. And it's just showing that he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand why what he did was so terrible, and he's probably going to do it again because he just doesn't get it. And yeah, I mean, it's very telling. I will say, you know, now I've defended Sheena, now I'm going to go the other way, that it's very telling how Ariana's first instinct is to go and run and hug Sheena and make sure she's okay, and you know, be completely Team Sheena, whereas Sheena doesn't seem to have that same loyalty quite as much toward Ariana, and is, you know, really making an effort to make up with Sandoval and kind of make the whole Sandoval about her in some ways. And I just wish that Sheena would show Ariana the same loyalty and love that Ariana time and time again is showing Sheena.
Yeah, I agree. That was super nice on Ariana's end that she hasn't been receiving that as much from Sheena. So we'll see how this continues to evolve throughout the season now. Like, it seems like this is definitely a talking point every episode. of the song that's coming out and Tom being upset about it. So hopefully, I feel like recently, like we've been seeing so many more scenes with both Tom and Ariana in them, which I
Hmm.
was surprised that we like were getting this many. Honestly, like I really didn't think that Ariana was gonna even like want to be in the same room, which we kind of heard about, but maybe the producers were kind of making the situations happen that way. But I feel like that's also been causing a lot of drama this season because then it's always funny when Ariana's just like looking down on her phone, like not acknowledging when he goes over to the table. I'm like, yes, do that.
I have a feeling that producers had a talk with Ariana that halfway through the season, like, hey, if you if you're coming back to the show, like you have to be willing to film with in the same room as Tom. Like, you don't have to have a conversation with him. You don't have to say one word to him. But we need to have you both at the same events because we can't keep doing this where it has to be one or the other. Like, that's not sustainable for the future of this show. So I think that they probably had to have a talk with her, and she agreed to be in the same room as him. So I'm glad. I think that that really has helped the season in a lot of ways, and that the second half of the season is so far a lot better than the first half. So
Yeah.
whatever they did to fix things midway through was good. And I think we only have 2 episodes left of the season before the reunion. So apparently the finale is like amazing and shocking. So I'm really excited for that. And so that should be coming up pretty soon here. But let's move on to actually staying with Vanderpump Rules. We have a really exciting news story that has been 2 years in the making. That Something About Her, Katie and Ariana Sandwich Shop, is finally set to open on May 22nd. Less than a month away. Very excited for that. Molly, if you go to LA, will you be getting a sandwich there?
Yes, I definitely will be. I want to go see their shop because we've seen so much about it on the show and I'm prepping for it. So I'm excited to see what it's all about when I go to LA, hopefully sometime soon. So, I mean,
Yeah.
now anytime I go, we'll be there. Which I can't believe when you said that's less than a month away. Like, that, like, gave me shivers for a second. I was like, wait, what? Like, I was like, May 22nd is less than a
I
month away.
know.
I still can't believe that. We're almost in May. But yeah, that will be really exciting. I'm excited to see them grow their business. Hopefully it does well.
Yeah, I'm just excited that all of the haters saying it's not real, it was just for a storyline, it's a fake sandwich shop. I am excited for them to find something new to hate Ariana and Katie for. So,
Yeah.
and Ariana's moved out. Like everything, all the points that people, Lala, have made recently to crap on her and Katie, now they have nothing to talk about with them. So, very happy for that. Now, staying in the Bravo verse, but moving over to Salt Lake City, a really sad update. So, we had just last week announced Monica Garcia announced that she was pregnant, and surprisingly, and now just hours ago, she posted that she unfortunately suffered a miscarriage. So, really sad. I think we had even made the point that it was really early that she was announcing that into her pregnancy, and that's a little scary. So, yeah, that I wish that she had waited a little longer to make it public, because that I'm sure makes it so much harder for her that now she has to make this announcement. Whereas if she had kept it private for a little longer, she wouldn't have had to say anything, and nobody would have known. But yeah, really sad for her, and thinking about keeping her and her family in our thoughts.
Yeah, I know it is. It's sad when that happens, and it's like more often than not that the women experience that. So it's not great that she had to then like re-announce it again, but at least it's then like saying like other women don't feel alone in this, that like she did experience it as well.
That's true. In a way, hopefully, maybe that will help someone, like we said with Harry and his skin cancer diagnosis. That hopefully this will help someone to not feel like they're alone in going through this. That maybe is going through it or have in the past. And anytime that like we said, a public figure can be honest and open with something like that can be very helpful for a lot of people. Now, a right turn alert. Kyle Richards, it is reported that she is being forced to reveal her quote unquote real relationship with Morgan Wade in order for her to come back on next season of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Now, this was a huge topic of conversation last season that Mauricio and Kyle's relationship is rocky and that they were being separated, and that maybe that had to do with Kyle's relationship with Morgan. That there's been a lot of speculation about how close they are, that maybe there's something more there. And so apparently, producers are basically saying that you either be honest about this or you're not coming back. So, Molly, do you think that this is fair for them to ask of her, or is that asking too much?
Yeah, so I feel like I it's interesting that they're kind of giving an ultimatum on this. Like, I would think they would want her on the show. So I don't like it's surprising that like maybe like they're acting so strongly about it. Like I kind of feel for Kyle in a way. Like, what if she does want to keep this a little bit more private? Like she's been keeping like her relationship with like having a divorce coming up. Like that's been really public. That like maybe now she's more so wanting to keep those like relationships she's having more private. So I don't agree with the way the producers are going about that. But then, yes, she also did sign up to share her life online or with the world in general and being a public figure. So people are going to find out pretty much regardless of what's going on in the show that she's filming. So there's two sides to that, but overall, like I don't think that that's right.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's weird to me. It almost feels a little icky. It's like kind of forced to out her if she is in a relationship with a woman, because, for publicly, she's only been in a relationship with men, or, actually publicly, one man in the past, Mauricio. And that part feels icky to me a little bit. Now, we don't know if this is true, by the way. Like, this is just a report, so Bravo has not, like, officially announced that this is their ultimatum to her. So we don't know. But if this is true, I don't love it because Kyle's been so open with her relationship with her sisters. Oh my God. I mean, the last 13 years on the show, she has been very public with, in the beginning, her relationship with Kim off and Kim's alcoholism, and then last couple of years with Kathy, they had issues. Like, she's been so open about all of that, more open than 90% of housewives have ever been with any sort of family relationships. So, if this is the one thing that she wants to keep private for now, I say let her do it. Let people speculate. Now, Kyle isn't helping things by posting little cryptic, cute messages that make people speculate, but I think, you kind of have to play along, I guess, if people are going to speculate regardless. So, I don't know, but yeah, it does feel a little icky to me if that's true. But let's move on. Lastly, for our Breaking by Bravo segment, we have the Below Deck Mediterranean Season 9 trailer, and it premieres May 3rd, the new season. So we are just wrapping up the current season of Below Deck Classic, I guess you would say, Below Deck Caribbean maybe. And now Mediterranean is coming back soon. So that premieres, oh my gosh, in actually just a few days. So excited for that.
Yeah, no, that'll be exciting. I haven't ever watched Below Deck, so maybe I'll watch Below Deck Mediterranean to start out my first time watching the show, the series overall.
It looks like a
Um,
good season, so I would
yeah,
say that I would definitely be open to us covering that if you want to, Molly, because it looks like it's
yeah.
going to be. Oh, sorry, I didn't think this sounded right. It's June 3rd, not May 3rd.
Uh,
I was like, why did we just get a trailer and it premieres in like a few days? So I wrote that down wrong in my notes. I apologize. It is June 3rd that it premieres, so
You're just
a little over
thinking
a month.
about May. We're almost in May, so
Yeah,
yeah.
and just eager for
The
it to start.
June, then the other shows will be over by then. I can definitely commit to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, 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 for sure.
Yes.
So, Molly, do you
Um,
want to move on now to the competition chat?
yes. So we got four more released episodes of The Circle this week, and we had some interesting components of it. I was surprised to see that right off the bat in episode 5 that the AI was announced as Max, that they didn't continue with him throughout longer until they found him, which I was a bit upset about because I was really hoping for there to be like this twist longer than just the first segment of the episodes because we really didn't get him that much in the whole season, like of the whole season, like barely seeing that go down. So I was surprised by that. What are your thoughts on how they announced that?
Yeah, I would say I wasn't shocked. I wouldn't have been surprised if they kept him longer, but I also wasn't shocked that they killed the twist when they did, because that's kind of what the circle's been known to do. It's almost like Big Brother in a way, where they'll have like an early season twist and then a mid season twist and then like the end of the season kind of let it play out normally. So I wasn't fully shocked that that's what they did with this, but I really loved the AI twist. We talked about it last week. So I was sad that we didn't get it longer, and then, for the next couple episodes I was like, "Dang, I really do miss the AI." But then we got another twist towards the end of these block of 4 episodes that I also really liked. So then I wasn't as upset we got rid of the AI, because I really did like the ride or die twist that we'll talk about in a second. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was sad because I think that it had a lot more longevity, that it could have caused chaos for longer, because it really didn't seem like anyone was like fully like 100% on to him. So I think they could
Yeah.
have gotten more out of it if they wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't seen the most recent seasons of The Circle, so I kind of forgot they had so many of these twists that they kind
Hmm.
of just get rid of. So yeah, it was interesting to see it, but and now that we got this ride or die twist, this one's also an interesting side of it. So each of the cast members were each paired up based on the results of the test that, or not tests, they did like random questions, and
Yeah,
whoever had the
little
most similar,
quiz.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, quizzes, those fun questions. So those people were paired up, and now no one else knows who each other's ride or dies are, but whoever was voted lowest, them and then the ride or die were up for elimination. And in the very end of the episode, we see that, so it's Kyle and Paul, or Caress, who's playing her brother Paul, are the two who, the ride or dies, who are up for elimination right now. And they can either choose to stay or to sacrifice themselves, and then the other person will stay. But if they both choose to stay, then they're both eliminated from the
Or if they
game.
both choose to
And
sacrifice,
if
they
they're
both.
supposed to sacrifice, so both ways. So one person has to either sacrifice themselves for one to
Right.
stay,
They have to
and
choose different options in order
they had
for
to choose different
them.
options. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, that. I don't know
Yeah.
if that made sense. Yeah,
It's hard.
so they had to
It's
choose different
very
options.
complicated to explain.
Yeah, but that was a really interesting component because I don't know what they're gonna do. To be honest, like they both sound like they wanted to stay.
Hmm.
So the fact that I don't think both. I think there's no way that both of them are going to be in the game next week, which is kind of upsetting because I like them both and I like watching them as players.
Hmm.
But like they're kind of just like doomed to fail.
Yeah, I think if I had to guess what's going to happen here, I think that Caress or Paul is going to say sacrifice, and I think that Kyle will say stay. I think that's my guess, is that Kyle will still be in the game come when we come back and see the results.
Yeah, I think I would hope that's the case. I just don't know if Paul is going to do that.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think just based
Yeah.
on kind of like the conversation that we saw, or not really a conversation because they couldn't talk to each other, but them talking to themselves, that we heard, I think that that's what it's going to end up being. That's my guess. But I really did like this twist. I think that, again, this ride or die twist it's interesting, it's different than anything we've seen before on the show, and I liked the way that they paired them up even, and without knowing that they were answering that this was going to have any effect on the game, because sometimes they play these games and they don't have any effect on the game, and I always kind of be like, well, that was a waste of time for me to watch. But I like that this surprisingly did have a big effect on the game. So I hope that they keep doing things like this where those little fun games that seem like they don't really matter end up actually having a big effect.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that aspect of it too because I was getting a little bit bored in some of those episodes of the circle. Like they're just doing nothing right now, so we needed some excitement there, and this
Yeah.
was definitely an exciting twist. But now moving into Survivor, we had a crazy tribal this past episode aired on Wednesday night, and that was like I don't even know where to begin with that. But what are your thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, I mean it was wild. I there was so much chaos up until like the moment they left for tribal, it seemed like. So I didn't know what to expect. And honestly, even coming out of the episode, like I wasn't really sure whether this was an intended split vote that was planned in an effort to get Hunter out, or whether they were really just split and that some of them wanted Q out. I couldn't tell, but I did watch Hunter's Rob Has a Podcast exit interview, which, by the way, just shout out to Rob Has a Podcast. I could not watch Survivor or Big Brother or any of these shows, even The Circle, without listening to their coverage right afterwards because I need it in order to break down what I just watched and understand any of it. And I mean, I need Taryn's Big Brother live feed updates every morning, and I need Rob did this whiteboard today where he broke down what happened at Tribal and tried to explain what happened and make any sense of it. So I would not be able to make any sense of it here if it wasn't for that. So shout out to them. But it did seem like Hunter was under the impression that Tiffany was with him, and that made him think that it was going to be a 4-2 split vote rather than a 3-3, which would have allowed him to stay without playing his idol, which is why he felt comfortable enough not to do that. Where in reality, Tiffany was not on his side, and then because of that, it became a split vote, and he did need to use his idol. So I was confused why he didn't play his idol, but that seems to be what his reasoning was for not playing it. So, still a huge mistake. Still, even if there's that chance that somebody doesn't vote the way you think they're going to vote, just play it. And, that's what I think he should have done. But
Yeah, because you even like knew his name was up there. Like it wasn't gonna
right.
be like, oh, like maybe the votes aren't going towards me, so I don't need to play it. Like he knew some votes were going towards him, so
Exactly.
I was
When you
surprised
have
by
an
that.
idol and you think there's even just like I don't know, more than like a 20% chance that you're going to go home, just play it. Like it's better to be safe than sorry. You can try to find another one the next day. Like I know that it's nerve-wracking and then you don't know who has it, and when you have it there's a sense of security, like okay, I can play this game without worrying that somebody else has an idol that I don't know about. Whereas that then once you play it, then that unknown factor is in there. But it's just not worth it because you're not going to see the next day if you go home. you the game's going to be a lot more difficult because you're going to be playing it from the jury bench. So yeah, it's easier said than done, I'm sure, of course. But yeah, that was a shocking, surprising episode.
For sure. And sad to see him go because I loved watching Hunter, but
Yeah, I would have a
for
lot
him to
really rather Q go
yeah.
after last episode with him trying to quit, whether that was game or not. But yeah,
Yeah.
the season has gotten a lot better, I think, since the jury phase.
Oh
I'm a
yeah.
lot more into it now than I was in the beginning.
Definitely. Well, we'll keep watching and keep you all updated. But we got another exciting Survivor update is that we found out for Survivor 50, it is going to be returning players. So Jeff Probst announced that, and that's super exciting because we haven't had one of these seasons in a while. And I'm excited to see all of our favorites hopefully come back and play together.
Yeah, no, really excited for that. We don't know a theme yet or anything like that, but excited. I mean, not super surprising. I think we all kind of expected it, but happy to officially know that it's going to be returning players for 50, as it should.
Yes, I'm excited for that. And then we also have another Survivor update that sadly cast away Sonia Christopher from Borneo. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, the first ever
Borneo.
Survivor season, first
Yeah.
ever voted out.
So she has died at 87. But yeah, so she did live a pretty long life, so good for her. But sad that she's no longer with us.
Yeah, I know she
Um,
was. Look, she's a part of Survivor history, first person ever voted out of Survivor. But so yes, rest in peace, Sonia.
Yes. And then for the rest of reality, we found out that Alex or Alexandra Jarvis is leaving the Oppenheim group. So no longer will be on Selling Sunset. Based on that, seems
Selling
like.
the OC.
Oh, so sorry. Selling the OC.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah, I always get the name. Selling the OC. I was like, I
Close
knew
enough.
Jarvis was not on Selling Sunset,
Right,
but
right.
yeah,
All the
adjacent.
Alexes are on the OC.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, that's right. Selling the OC, which is the new season's coming up in just a couple of days.
Yeah.
But for the next season, she won't be there.
Right. I don't think we're going to see anything about her leaving on this upcoming season, but for obviously, yeah, the one after that, if it's renewed, we will. I would assume she won't be back.
Yeah,
If she's not at the Oppenheimer.
definitely. Which are you sad to see her go, or don't
Yeah, I
mind?
mean, look, I'm not like the biggest Jarvis fan on the show. I think that she comes across somewhat inauthentic to me a lot of the time, but I do like her, especially now that I'm kind of after the whole situation with Hall and Tyler and Brittany Snow's Call Her Daddy interview where she like really went into a lot more detail about that whole situation. I am really not as big on Alex Hall as I was, so that makes me in like by effect like Jarvis better than I did before. So I am sad to see her go, but we will see. It's still possible, I guess, that she might come on and make some cameos if she's still friends with the group. So I don't know what will happen with that, but yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to wait to see what happens there. But we'll be talking about the beginning of this, or will it all air this week?
Yeah,
We'll cover
the whole
some of it.
season will air together.
Okay. So we'll either cover some of it or all of it next week. Stay tuned. But also we found out that, or not found out, we know that this week is also the premiere for Dance Moms, the reunion, which is crazy that that's happening now, which is going to be exciting. I never really watched Dance Moms, honestly, growing up, but I've seen clips of it, obviously, seeing on TikTok and all this stuff. But I'm excited. I think I definitely want to watch it. It'll be fun to
Yeah,
watch.
I'm really interested to watch it, and I think it'll be really interesting to hear people's take on Abby Lee Miller now looking back. And a lot of I feel like it was just a different time when that show was on, and I do kind of wonder what their take on it is now in 2024, how she kind of treated those kids. And I don't know whether that holds up in 2024 fully, and I'm curious to hear kind of their take on it now that they're removed from it. And I'm not sure if all the moms are going to be on the reunion as well, or whether it's just some of the kids. But either way, I'm very curious to watch that.
Yes, for sure. Well, that's all of our updates and news from this past week, and we've got a lot to come up this coming week too. So stay tuned for next week's episode. Make sure to follow us on our Instagram and TikTok. Now we have a TikTok account, Let's Chat Reality, and our YouTube if you wanted to watch us instead of just listening on wherever you listen to your podcast. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll chat with you all next week.
Bye, everyone.